Resident Evil Village, set 3 years after the events within the Baker's plantation home, continues the story of Ethan Winters as he now has to enter a remote village in the snowy mountains of Eastern Europe to search for his missing baby daughter. It took everything that was successful about RE7 and expanded upon it to give you more puzzles, more enemy varieties, and more locations to explore. In this video, I've managed to put together as many Easter eggs, references, and any other points of interests that I could find. And if you do enjoy the video, it will be a big help if you can support the channel by subscribing and leaving a like, and then you can stay up to date on all future content I put up. Now it's time once again to enter the world of survival horror.
Where the hell am I?
Starting out on the title screen, there's a nice little detail that happens as you progress through the game. Depending on how far into the story Ethan is, the title screen changes to reflect the story's time of day. In the Winters' home, as well as throughout the game, there are wine bottles showing the brand name Regina Rosé, meaning Red Queen. Now this may be referencing the Dino Crisis protagonist Regina, who also happens to have red hair, but the bottles do serve a purpose in the story as it's revealed to be a local brand of red wine, made from Castle Dimitrescu, which is later discovered to include human blood in the recipe. Something Miranda, disguised as Ethan's wife, doesn't have a problem drinking, and shows how twisted she really is when sharing a bottle with Ethan. At the start of gameplay, Ethan has to put baby Rose to sleep upstairs. You don't have to do this straight away if you want to explore the house first, and Rosemary remains quiet for the most part, but walking into the study room will awaken her. Putting the baby in the cot will make her return to sleep. However, if you want to carry the baby around and explore some more, there is something nearby that helps her settle in Ethan's arms again. By going over to the chair with the toys, Ethan can interact with them, and Rosemary returns to sleep.
Well, hi there, little Rose.
On the landing is a familiar figurine called Mr. Everywhere, and was last seen throughout RE7 as a destructible item. A reference to George Trevor can be found on a bookshelf in the second bedroom, who was the architect of the Spencer Mansion, and even after his death, his design notes helped with the construction of the cruise liners and Revelations, and the Baker's family home in RE7. A challenge can be completed in the bedroom that involves kicking a ball into the study room and will even earn you a trophy. On another shelf, you can find a book title written by Joseph Kendo, who customized the Star's handguns that was given the name Samurai Edge, and is the brother of Robert Kendo, who himself was last seen in the 2 recent remakes. There's an interesting item found in one of the drawers in the dining room. Amongst the jazz CD cases, there's one cover that stands out, and when taken a closer look, reveals the album title Miss D and the Pole Boys, which might imply Lady Dimitrescu was once a jazz singer in the early 20th century before turning into an immortal creature of the night, but it might also just be a developer joke. Found on the coffee table in the living room is a baby monitor that Ethan can interact with. Though nothing is shown on it to begin with, you can return to the monitor once Rosemary is placed to rest upstairs, and it shows her sleeping in her cot. Seen in various parts of the game are reused assets of the Dolby beer bottles from RE7, which is the name of the location that the Baker home was set in. There are a few times throughout the game that certain events occur that can be missed if you're not looking in the right direction. One happens outside the first house with the dead horse. Ethan has to enter the nearby house where you will hear something coming from outside, and when leaving, you may just spot in the last second the horse being dragged away. Within this destroyed house, there's a cot that has a familiar looking toy resting in it. and it leaves Ethan a little bewildered when you examine it. If RE7 takes inspiration from modern horror movies, then RE Village is influenced by many classic horror films and European folklores. The basic enemy types, called lycans, which is the short word for lycanthropy, meaning wolfman, is one of the most well-known Eastern European folklores that are used in many forms within modern media. There are various types in the game, but none more terrifying than this evolved creature called Varkulak, which is the Romanian word for werewolf. The handgun ammunition deserves a closer look, as the brand name is appropriately called Silver Wolf, and its slogan says, "Don't settle for gold, go with silver," which refers to the werewolf's weakness to silver weapons. At the end of the Lycan attack, during Ethan's first exploration of the village, he is saved when distant bells begin to ring out, causing them to leave. This is one of a few callbacks to Resident Evil 4, as a similar event happens to Leon on first entering the village and is attacked by the Ganados. The game has many beautiful vistas, and one structure that stands out is Castle Dimitrescu, which is the first location Ethan will go to in search of his daughter. From the story side of things, the building is based on the fictional castle that Dracula lived in from the Bram Stoker novel, and from an architectural standpoint, its design may be based on a real-life Romanian building called Pelei Castle. Another fictional brand name, seen in other recent RE titles, is the Hey Bro Disinfecting Wipes, and though I'm not entirely sure about this one, it looks like these words on the label seem to be lyrics from a song. According to concept art descriptions of Miranda, she's based on a crow queen. On further research, there does appear to be similarities to Miranda and the goddess Morrigan in Irish folklore, who's associated with death and fate, and is a shapeshifter who can transform into a crow. On some occasions, when meeting the hag, if you look down on the muddy ground, you'll see her carving the village's cult symbol that is found in many areas of the game. The Duke has a similar role to the merchant from RE4, and alludes to their connection when he quotes a line from him, and on the menu it states that no one's a stranger, which recalls the time when the merchant called that to Leon.
What are you buying? Just something an old friend of mine used to say.
Got a selection of good things on sale, stranger. What are you buying?
At any point in the game, when you're near the Duke, you can fire off your weapon nearby. Though you can't kill him, like you could with the merchant, the Duke does react to Ethan.
A lovely weapon, sir. Très bien. Do be careful not to waste your ammunition.
As Ethan now enters the castle, the game takes on a more female vampiric theme, as he's hunted by Lady Dimitrescu and her 3 daughters, who are based on Dracula and his brides. Lady D is also partly inspired by a Japanese urban legend about an 8-foot-tall lady entity in a white dress and hat who preys on men. Even her transformation into a dragon-like creature in the boss battle is based on Dracula, as the name Dracul means dragon. The Morowaker enemy types are named after female vampires in Romanian folklore, as are the Samka creatures, again all female, and named after an evil spirit. On the topic of vampires, there's a powerful magnum you can buy during the second playthrough, and the name of the weapon is appropriately given the acronym STAKE. Around Castle Dimitrescu are many paintings you can study. Some are more unsettling than others, such as this painting, found in the room next to the bedchamber, which depicts a group of women crushing men under their feet for their blood, like they were crushing grapes, and clues you in to the winemaking process of Lady D's Regina Rosé. Back with the Duke, there are some funny moments that happen between his business dealings with Ethan. Like when he dozes off if you get too close, he snaps awake. Or while he's reading a book, he drops cigar ash on himself. When you reach the Hall of Ablution, you have to solve a puzzle to drain the bath full of blood. This may be a reference to Elizabeth Bathory, an Hungarian noblewoman born in the 1500s who was accused of torturing and killing hundreds of young women, and was even rumoured to have bathed in their blood, believing it would keep her forever young. When Ethan is being hunted by Lady Dimitrescu, she cuts his arm off, and after you reclaim the arm, you can examine something that Capcom may have left as a clue that Ethan had died 3 years ago, as Ethan was mutated by the mold. Some say there is a residue of it on the arm. In the theatre room, there's a piano that requires Ethan to play a music piece in order to complete a puzzle. The name seen on the music piece, Francesco Paolo Tosti, was an actual Italian composer who wrote Sogno in the late 1800s. After defeating Daniela, Ethan says a line that refers back to his encounter with Marguerite in the old house in RE7.
I'm sick of bugs.
There is some hidden dialogue between Lady D and Cassandra that you can hear after the fight with Daniela. When Ethan returns to the main hall, and depending on which floor you enter from, and whether Cassandra is dead, you will hear 3 variations.
Cassandra! Come here, now! Enough games! I want that man's head! Now go!
Of course, Mother.
Cassandra, a word! What is that man up to? You're my daughter! Now act like it!
Of course, Mother.
Cassandra? Cassandra? No! How much blood and sweat do you think it took to raise those daughters? You have incurred an impossible debt!
In the atelier, with the giant lifelike painting of Lady D, Ethan has to locate and shoot 5 bells that will reveal a secret passage. This is similar to what Leon and Helena needed to do on the roof of the Tall Oaks Cathedral to progress in RE6. One of the main tasks in the game is to defeat each of the 4 lords in order to obtain a flask that holds a piece of his daughter, and once you have one, it can be examined. On a closer look, there are a few things of interest to point out. The name Eve, short for Evelyn, appears on the label, which was the code name assigned to the bioweapon and main antagonist of the last game. The floor symbol at the ceremony site is seen here, and was eventually the inspiration for the Umbrella logo. And there's a warning description on the other side that mentions if any subjects miss their regularly scheduled injections, they will age rapidly, which is exactly what happened to Evelyn in RE7. The next location takes place in House Beneviento, and the journey there, as well as the house itself, has a supernatural feel to it, as this part of the game is set in a dense fog and is based on ghosts, haunted houses, and possessed dolls from many legends. Of course, Resident Evil is meant to be somewhat grounded in reality, so everything Ethan experiences is from breathing in the spores from the hallucinogenic plants that are seen along the path. So when Ethan begins his journey towards House Beneviento, as mentioned before, he starts to hallucinate, and some players may not have known that if you try to go back at particular points on the path, you'll find the way is blocked by branches that appear out of nowhere, or rather, Ethan believes his way back is blocked. On the return to the doll workshop with the scissors, another event happens that you can miss if you're not looking in the right direction. As you enter the medicine room, Mia can be seen passing by the window. What's really unsettling about this is if you're fast enough to reach the window, it looks like Mia is floating toward the direction of the wall instead of the doors before disappearing. After finishing the puzzle section, you can gain access to the chamber with the well. Breaking away from the classic horror tropes for a moment, this well may be a nod to the Japanese horror book Ringu, or The Ring as the films are known in the West, which has supernatural elements in the story, much like this part of the game, and the girl in the well has similarities to Evelyn. During the final battle with Donna, Ethan thinks he's wounding the doll, Angie, with the scissors, but as he follows the bloody trail to Angie's next location, you'll notice human handprints left on the wall, as it's really Donna that Ethan is harming and not her doll. After leaving the house and getting your weapons back, you also recover the family photo of Mia and baby Rose, only now if you inspect the back of it, it now has writing on it. If you return to the church after collecting at least one of the flasks, you'll find that Chris Redfield's team, Hound Wolf, has been operating from here since Ethan left the village, and you can read their mission objectives on the laptop. In the graveyard area, there is one particular tombstone that you can examine that shows the name Ava, and the writing says, "May you slumber for only a short while." This is the daughter of Miranda, and is the reason the events of RE7 in Village happen, as Ava is the driving force behind Miranda's actions, who slowly grows mad with her obsession to find a way to resurrect her daughter. Louisa, who was the elderly lady who allowed Ethan into her home with the other survivors, mentioned that her husband was out there in the village somewhere and was optimistic about him being alive. But you can discover what became of him on your way to Moreau's territory. In one of the stables in the east of the village, his body can be found with a letter he wrote. While inside the mines of Moreau's territory, you can find a bunch of newspaper clippings on the wall. Some articles show on the upper left-hand corner a familiar logo that also appeared as an Easter egg in RE6. This is known as the Ishichi emblem and was created by Capcom and can be found in many of their games, such as the Street Fighter series and the Mega Man games. As Ethan tries to get the power to the sluice gates working again, he breaks the crank, forcing him to find an alternative one elsewhere. A similar event happens in RE3 Nemesis, where Jill tries to raise the shutter at the gas station using a rusty old crank. So the next lord, Moreau, is described as a half-fish, half-man, and is based on the river yokai, or kappa, who were malevolent supernatural spirits in Japanese folklore. They brutally attacked any human who ventured too close to the water. Deviating from the main story path and taking a boat downriver, you can discover a cave where the heart of the mold outbreak began. Within the cave, you can find an antique coin. This is the same coin design that's found throughout RE7. Another non-story path you can go along to find a treasure chest will take Ethan to a building called Otto's Mill. Though it doesn't seem to be a reference to anyone from Capcom or any of their games, it might just be a running gag in the RE series, as the name has turned up a few times, like Kijuju in RE5 and Tall Oaks in China in RE6. In the factory, before triggering the cutscene with Heisenberg, you can take a closer look at the map and photographs hidden on the wall. Unlike the other lords, who worship Miranda, Heisenberg's hatred for all of them is revealed. On the bottom of each of their mugshots are insulting names. and on the map, Heisenberg seems to not only be anticipating the BSAA's arrival, but is hoping they bomb Miranda and the ceremony site. Images of soldiers are also seen that represent his hybrid machine army moving out of the factory and moving toward the bomb site. So as Ethan is now in the last major location, the theme is based around Mary Shelley's story, as Karl Heisenberg is strongly based on Dr. Frankenstein, and you have to fight through his army of human machine monsters. Another challenge you can complete is in the main processing chamber where the Duke rests. If you shoot with the sniper rifle at the monsters moving along the assembly line, you can detach them and watch as they plummet into the water. In the same chamber, there's something interesting you can see in the distance of this large cavern. If you zoom in with the sniper rifle, there's an area that looks to be some kind of ancient structure, and it's a little disappointing we don't get the chance to explore there or learn what the place is. One of the toughest enemies, and perhaps one of the strangest in the game, is called Sturm. This mechanical monster with a large propeller head seems to be based on a similar being seen in the 2013 movie Frankenstein's Army. The director of the movie wasn't happy about the similarities of the monster designs, and has even gone as far as to accuse Capcom of plagiarism. During the boss battle, the factory will blow up in the background. That will provoke an angry response from Heisenberg, recalling something that Chris did in the finale of RE5.
That boulder punching asshole!
At the start of Chris's gameplay, you can read the vehicle's number plate. Now I might be reading too much into this, but it could have been a clue at the time as to when the next Resident Evil game was going to be, and now we know that Remake 4 will be released in 2023. A cool nod to the original game can be found on Chris's gun, as it shows the weapon's ID number as 24-71998, which is a date. The 24th of July 1998 was the night that Chris and the other STARS members were stranded in the Spencer mansion. If you listen carefully to the music here, you'll notice a familiar tune. This was the theme heard in RE1 while exploring the guardhouse. Hey everyone, thanks for watching this video, if you've made it this far, and I hope you've enjoyed it. I haven't played on the Shadows of Rose DLC yet, but if it's worth it, I'll make a video on that separately, like I did with Lost in Nightmares RE5 DLC. I could do that back to back with Remake 4 when that gets released. So this January, I'm going to be doing the latest Tomb Raider trilogy, starting with the 2013 game. And if you haven't yet and you want to support the channel, subscribe and please leave a like. And once again, as always, a big thanks to all of you who have and are continuing to help this channel grow. So, until the next video, bye everyone.